And think about it, how far their hearts have gone.
Yeah.
That he's healing people and you're upset about
it. That's what stuck out to me too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's kind of like you guys wanted the glory, you wanted the prestige, or you wanted, and
they wanted it to be all about them, and their tradition and their rituals, as opposed to being what the temple really was supposed to be about. So they had gone so far away from what God intended for his temple to be used for.
Yes. Welcome to the Vibes Daily Podcast. You have joined us in our series entitled Devoted, where we are going through the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, cover to cover. Today you have joined us in day 290, and we're going through the book of Matthew. We made it. Matthew chapter 21. We'll be going through 21 and 22 today, and I am back with my mom.
Yes, I am here again.
Yeah.
This has been really a good study this week.
Yeah, it has. It has. I love walking through this Jesus' journey and through the eyes of his disciple Matthew. And here we have arrived at this very somewhat well-known story because there's songs after it. Kirk Franklin has a song, Hosanna. But where Jesus fulfills the prophecy of riding in to Jerusalem on this colt or this donkey. Here we have both actually described here. But yeah, give me your thoughts. I'll leave it open-ended there.
Yeah, well, again, Jesus and his disciples, they were approaching Jerusalem, and they came to the town of Bethphage on the Mount of Olives. So the Mount of Olives is a very popular place that Jesus spent time. And then he actually sent two of his disciples to go ahead into the village.
Yeah.
And he had shared with them that they were going to see someone that had a donkey tied with his colt beside it, and that they were to untie it and then bring it to him. And if anyone asked, why are you doing this? They were just to say, the Lord has need of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was really interesting because you can hear more on that? It was really interesting because this is the first time I think it stuck out to me that there was both a donkey and her foal there, right? That there was both. I remember hearing the stories of Jesus riding in on a donkey.
Yeah.
But not so much that the baby was there, right? The little 4-year-old colt was there, right? And it fulfills prophecy that he will be mounted on a donkey and on the colt, the foal of a donkey, that he was on both of them, right, in the prophecy. And so I had to look this up. I did. Yeah. There are different theories out there about what could have happened, right? Like some believe that like the mother was there to like lead the baby, and toddler. I don't know. I'm speaking about like a little toddler donkey. Along the way, and because I remember when I first read this, I was just like, it's so interesting that like, and so compassionate that he didn't take that child away from its mother.
Yeah.
Right? Like he wanted to be on this colt that was not written on before, right? But like the fact that he brought moms with him was just really compassionate to me. And so there were thoughts that like maybe the mother was there just to help the little colt to follow. And to go where we're supposed to go because it's following its mother, right? And there's thoughts of it that like because there's different hills and valleys and on how to enter the city, that he might have read the donkey up, the mother up first, and then he got onto the colt and rode that one downhill. The baby could handle that more than lifting him up to the mountainside. There's some thoughts. What are your thoughts there? Did you have any?
Interesting. Now, just as I was reading it, it says that they brought, verse 7, they brought the donkey and the colt to him, and then they threw their garments over the colt, and he sat on it. So here it really reads more like it was the colt that took him in to the city
Yes.
in a procession, and then that's where, again, we get the palm leaves, Palm Sunday, if you will, where the crowd is saying Hosanna or praise God, whichever version, for the Son of David, blessings on the one who comes in the name of the Lord, Hosanna in the highest.
Yeah, and you're reading the NLT, because my CSB, it says that then they laid their clothes on them, and he sat on them.
On them, meaning the colt and the donkey.
Yeah, exactly. So I think just depending on how it was translated from the original text, you'll get something. But what I love is that even, I think it was Matthew and, not Matthew, Mark and Luke also have this account in their books. And they mention him only on the donkey.
Yeah.
And
mine here says Matthew mentions a donkey and a colt, while the other gospels mention only the colt.
Only the colt, yeah.
Is what my commentary says.
Yeah.
And that Matthew focused on the prophecy out of Zechariah 9:9, where a donkey and his colt are mentioned.
Right.
So, to your point earlier, but again, this was where he was on. What better way to lead an unbroken colt for its first ride down a crowded road than to have its mother with it? Exactly.
And so one thing I even just point this out just from apologetics standpoint, that like these type of texts, when we're reading through the gospel, sometimes give people tension between like, well, what's true? Because this one says colt and this one says donkey and the colt, so which one was it? And I think he said the other ones don't negate that there was another animal there. Then you say it was on the colt and there was nothing else there, So although they just mentioned one, doesn't mean that there could not have been the mother donkey there with him, right? But I think, like I mentioned to Eric last week, that Priscilla Shire says it's kind of like a 7-layer chocolate cake, where like one person will give more detail here, another will give more detail there. Right. And you just build upon the story to make a holistic, delicious treat, right?
And to this point, that Matthew was an eyewitness.
Yes, he was an eyewitness.
And so again, he may have even been with the disciples and seen the colt, because even though he sent 2 of them, he was a witness to know that there was an actual colt, and the donkey and the colt.
Yes.
And then to witness seeing the colt come in, whereas Mark, he just heard of.
Yes, John Mark
with Luke.
Yeah, John Mark and Luke, they were not eyewitnesses. And like you said, his purpose was to help the Jews understand that Jesus did fulfill the prophecies and that he is the Messiah. And so even in this prophecy here in verse 5, it says mentions both a donkey and a colt, right? And so I know in his description, he made sure to mention that there was both the donkey and the colt there, just because of his audience and his intention.
Exactly.
And so for the intention of his audience, he included extra details there. And so so I just wanted to point that out, because sometimes we'll see this, that not everything is exactly the same, which I think also gives some validity actually to the Bible, because if everyone came out with the same exact story, you're lying. Somebody's lying. Yeah. Somebody's lying. Like, when the kids will be like, okay, what we're going to tell mommy is this. Like, somebody lying,
Yeah.
Like, you guys have different perspectives.
And
like,
that's the thing. It's different perspectives. It's like you see things one way. I may see it a different way. We all seeing the same thing, but it's from our own viewpoint, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So he comes in, he fulfills his prophecy, and he goes into this temple. He goes straight up into the temple, right?
But even before you get to the temple, verse 10, I like when they said, who is
this?
So here they see Jesus, the Messiah, coming in on a donkey, and the crowd is praising him coming through. But yet then the city of Jerusalem, they were in an uproar at his entering.
Yep.
And said, who is this? And then they replied, it's Jesus, the prophet. they called him a
The
prophet.
Yep.
From Nazareth in Galilee.
Yeah, they didn't call him the Messiah.
Them as the Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's I thought was very important, and that was again seen primarily in Matthew's account.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah, they saw him only as a prophet, and so when he goes up into this house, and he says some, he recites scripture, right?
Yes.
Recites scripture again, saying that my house will be called a house of prayer, and you're making a den of thieves. And this is where he is seeing people buying and selling these money changers and all these selling dust. Because remember when we were reading back when they were establishing some of the rituals and the things that they allowed for them to do at the temple, one of the things was bring your sacrifice, whether it was the unblemished lamb or whatever it may be, the calf. But if your journey is too far, right, just bring the money for that, and then buy a sacrifice when you get there,
correct,
to give to the Lord. And that was just to help people who were journeying too far, right, or who were unable to bring this sacrifice. Especially we were talking about this year-old, calf or whatever. Like it might not make the journey. It might pass away before. It might be on the verge of death, and you can't give that to the Lord, right?
Strengthen us.
Yeah. You don't want to just give God this half-dying lamb, right? By the time we get there. And so this was a way for the people to actually give the Lord a proper sacrifice. But instead of it, the people who live near the temple was just trying to profit and make money off of this and turn this into a business of sorts, right? And so when Jesus arrives, he is up to the set, because he's like, we made this rule and we gave this allowances of you to do this so that you can give the Lord a proper sacrifice. But instead, you are charging the people and making a profit out of it and not even respecting the Lord's temple in this way. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that's all good that you shared that. Again, and he said in verse 14, the blind and the lame came to him in the temple. And they were healed.
And he healed them.
And that's what, again, Jesus came to be able to not only expound what was to be taught in the temple, but then also to heal people.
Yes.
In the temple.
Yes. And because that was also the priest's job, remember? Like the priests were supposed to be the ones healing, and that's what Moses, and back in the Pentateuch, where we read in the first 5 books, that a lot of these duties were that of the priests.
And they would say, present yourself to the priest. Even Jesus told them to go to the temple. When he had healed certain people. So even in his day and time, that's what it was. So they can declare
them clean. Yeah, and so it was interesting, but the fact that he is trying to make things right in the temple, and he's healing people, that the scribes and the priests saw the wonders that he did,
right,
and the children shouting, Hosanna to the Son of David. They were indignant. Says they were hot. They were like, why are they praising him? And they think about it, how far their hearts have gone. That he's healing people and you're upset about
it. That's what stuck out to me too.
Yeah, because it's kind of like you guys wanted the glory, you wanted the prestige, or you want, and
they wanted it to be all about them, and their tradition and their rituals, as opposed to being what the temple really was supposed to be about. So they had gone so far away from what God intended for his temple to be used for.
Yes, it was supposed to be a place of healing.
A place of healing. Where people are supposed to come and get refuge.
And reconciliation.
And yet here you are, even upset with the children. Praising them.
And then he, once again, says there's another prophecy or another thing that he recites up that even from the mouth of infants and nursing babes, they'll be praised, right? And so, but even though I was just thinking that, like, the lame and the blind, those were defects, weren't even allowed to, like, be in the temple in the same way. So even him healing them just allowed them to have access, right? And to be considered clean to go and present the sacrifice to be reconciled to the Lord. So,
Yeah.
and so it's like, you want these people, I was thinking about the police, you want these people to stay lame and never get reconciliation with the Lord.
Oh, yeah. I thought of it like that.
Like, if they stayed in that state,
yeah.
they couldn't come to the temple to offer their sacrifice to become clean again.
True.
I'm just like, oh. And that's what we wanted for the people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good point. I hadn't thought of that way.
Yeah, so we continue on. And there's a couple things that happen with the fig tree here. And, you know, they are once again challenging him. The priests and the elders are challenging him on what authority he's doing things. He gives them a couple parables to talk about it. Anything that jumped out throughout this chapter?
About the how they challenged his authority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Always.
You know, in verse 23, you know, Jesus was in the temple and he was teaching. And the elders and the chief priests, they came up to him and they demanded, "Oh, what authority are you doing these things? Who gave you the right?
Who gave you the right to do this?"
Yeah. Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
In other words, coming up in here, healing people.
Yeah.
Which is something that they were supposed to be about.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "I tell you about what authority I do these things if you can answer me a question."
Oops.
So Jesus flipped it back on them. And he said, "Did John's authority to baptize come from heaven? Or was it merely human?"
Mm-hmm.
And they couldn't answer it. They wouldn't answer it because of the way that they felt that other people were going to look at them, right?
Yes.
They say, if we say it's from heaven, he'll say, then why didn't we believe John? But then if we say it was merely human, then we'll be mobbed because the people believe John was a prophet.
Mm-hmm.
So they ain't say nothing.
Exactly.
They say, we don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you.
He said, well, then I won't tell you by what authority I do these things. So I just love the boldness of Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he turned another question on there. Okay, I'll answer you if you answer me this question.
Yeah.
And again, you know, John being his cousin, y'all didn't even accept my cousin.
Yeah. I mean, and just to think that they are speaking to God.
And they don't recognize
They don't recognize this. But the fact that they come with so much boldness and hate towards him.
Yeah.
It's just hurtful. Because it is. It's kind of like, he's better than me. That's why Jesus is better than me. I'm like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Just to think of it as like our child or children. Like, I created you. Right?
Right.
I created you.
Yeah. And here you're going to challenge my authority.
Yeah.
Meaning when I ask you to do something, like you trying to potty train your little 2-year-old now. And he like, no, I'm not going to do it.
That's JoJo. I love my baby.
Baby. He gets me in here. I'm trying to bribe him.
he takes no bribe.
He wasn't phased.
Homie don't take no bribes.
I'm not doing this. Nope. His little friend, he's same age. He's potty trained. He going, don't you want to go? Nope. Flat out.
Where's my basketball? Basketball, mom.
But again, challenging authority, but then that's the innocence of him too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's so funny because he goes on to this parable next about these two sons and pretty much talking about the Pharisees, right? Mm-hmm. And the scribes, because he's like, it's better to just say that you like. It's better if you said you're not going to do it, but you actually do it. Right. I would rather you do what I actually do than to say that you are and not do it. And that's what the lives of the Pharisees was about. Them continuously saying that they did stuff, continuously saying that they were living this type of lifestyle, continuously trying to pose as something and not following or doing any really of the commands of the Lord. The way that he asked them to.
The way he asked them
to. Right. And in their eyes, they were righteous because of all the nitpick things that they were doing. But he's just like, I'd rather somebody be a sinner and then convert and actually start doing what I asked you to do than to pose like you're doing it and not be doing anything at all. Yeah. And so, I mean,
that was good.
Yeah. So, it keeps on going though. He's another parable.
Mine calls it the evil farmers.
Yes, about how, these people who are the Pharisees and the priests, they're supposed to be taking care of God's people, right? They're supposed to be taking care of the sheep and pretty much Jesus and God they have loaned them the people, right, to watch over them, but yet they are mistreating the prophets, the prophets and those who got sins on his behalf. And they are abusing them and they're beating them and they're treating them bad, and Jesus is calling them out like, this is what y'all have done time after time again. And he's saying it in the way of this parable here of these servants or farmers who are killing the servants that the owner is sending on his behalf.
Yeah, and then the owner sends his son. Just like God sent his son. And then they kill him.
Like they will kill.
They kill them, like we will find that they did to Jesus. So again, I love just the way that he uses these different parables.
Yes.
To show them who they are and to be prophetic in how, again, his end will be.
Yeah. And so of course they're upset, but they fear the crowds again. They fear what the people are going to say.
Yep.
Again, because they thought he was a prophet, and so they didn't want it to become true, right?
Yeah.
Because listen, they did right then and there. Once again, this parable just came true right in front of your face. Did you have any other thoughts?
Not really. I mean, again, I think that, again, I love the way that prophecy is being fulfilled.
Yes.
You know, we read about a lot of this in the Old Testament. We see now the Pharisees and how they, again, treated Jesus. And how he even, again, speaks to how his end will be, just like he uses in this parable.
Yeah, definitely. So moving into chapter 22, so once more, we have another parable, right? And now we've heard him talking about this eternal kingdom of heaven, right? That he wants everyone to be there. He doesn't want anybody to be left out. Like we didn't talk about the lost sheep, but he mentioned how he doesn't even want one lost sheep to go missing.
Right.
We talked about how the first will be last and last will be first, and we talked about like not letting anything get in your way of getting into this eternal kingdom, by like cutting off anything you need to cut off, right? Out of your life, and cut your eye out and your arm off if you need to. And you talk about reconciliation up until this point. And now he's starting to press upon the people about the time is coming near and that you need to be ready.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and to not miss out on this kingdom. So like, not only like do all these things that I'm asking you, but do it urgently now. And so we have now this parable of this wedding banquet. And yeah, so give me your thoughts on this one.
Well, again, it's as if the gate was wide open for all to come to the banquet. And when it said it was ready, he sent his servants out to notify those who were invited. Then they refused to come. So they refused to accept the invitation. Jesus gives us an invitation. Not everybody accepts that invitation, right? Just for salvation. So then he sent more and told them, that everything was ready, come to the banquet, but, they ignored them.
Yeah.
And they went their own way, one to their farm, one to do his business, others, seized the messengers, insulted them, and even killed them.
Yes.
So they killed, and so you think about it today. We have people that come and try and share the word, but we have people that come against that word. And, we've had people that have been, martyrs, killed, for spreading the gospel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and we see that a lot more in other nations because we have freedom of speech here. And so we're so blessed in America, right? But right now, like, there are people going missing and being murdered or hiding in bunkers in case, like, because of the threat that is against them because they are Christians, right? And we just don't see as much, but there are plenty of Christians dying around the world, in India and in Asia and different places like that, where they're constantly being persecuted for Christ.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so verse 7 says that the king, he was furious.
Yeah.
So he sent out his army to destroy the murderers and burn their town.
Sure did.
Wow. And then he said to them, the wedding feast is ready, and the guests I invited aren't worthy of the honor.
Yeah.
That stuck out to me.
Yeah.
And he told them, now go out into the street corners and invite everybody you see.
Good and evil.
Good and evil, yep. So the servants brought in everyone they could find, good and bad alike, and the banquet hall was filled with guests.
Yes. And so, yeah, this was interesting to me because, yes, he filled it up good and bad, but then there was still a sorting process that happened afterwards. So that's the part that like stuck out to me, was that he saw a man there who wasn't dressed for the wedding.
Right.
And he said to them, like, wait, what are you doing here? Like, how did you get in here without wedding clothes on? Like, you're not ready, though. I invited you, and I included everyone, good and evil, poor or rich. Like, I invited everyone, but you're not properly dressed, so you still can't stay.
Yeah.
You know, you were invited, but you can't stay. And so I think this is what he says in verse 14, for many are invited, but few are chosen. And that stuck out to me because it's like, yes, God wants to cast a net far and wide, and he is to gather as many people as he can, but it is still up to us,
right,
to make sure that we are ready and that we have done what we needed to do in terms of accepting Jesus Christ and accepting him and obeying him, right? To show that we have accepted him, right? There's not just lip service, but it's our life and it's our heart, right? That we have, not that we can earn our way into heaven, but that we've done what we needed to do to stay, right?
Well, we have to change.
We have to
we
change.
Can't remain the same. And this man, he came and he wasn't properly clothed.
He wasn't dressed.
And so, again, he needed to at least change.
Yeah.
And so, again, the gate is wide open. Many are going to be called, but few will be the actual chosen.
Yes.
Because, again, of accepting and going through that sanctification process.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And so here we go again with more Pharisees. We have some Sadducees coming against Jesus, trying to trap him in his words, trying to test him with these, hard questions. They brought some experts in the law. Tell me what stuck out to you for the rest of this chapter, because they are trying everything.
They were trying. Yeah, he said, you teach the way of God truthfully, but you are impartial and you don't play favorites. That's what my Bible says.
They're trying to butter him up before.
Yeah,
they're trying to butter me
what
up.
do you think about this? Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? And they said, Jesus, he saw their evil motives.
Yeah, he did. He saw right through them.
Right through them. He said, you hypocrites.
Yes.
Why are you trying to trap me?
Yep.
Here, show me this coin that's used for the tax. And then when they handed him a Roman coin, he said, whose picture's on it? And they said,
Caesar's.
So then what did he say? Render that unto Caesar what's Caesar's, and then give to God what belongs to God.
Yeah. And so, I just love that at the end of each of these segments of when they test him, they always leave amazed, right?
Yeah.
Like, so verse 22, they were amazed. Verse 33, when the crowds heard this, they were astonished at his teaching.
Yeah.
Like, by the time we get down to 46, no one was able to answer him at all. And from that day on, no one dared to question him anymore. Yeah. And so I do love that, like, they keep bringing these things up, and he keeps responding with all perfection, right?
Yes.
Because he is God, right?
God, yes.
And even when we get to these Sadducees here about the resurrection, who's going to be married to this lady who's been married to 7 different men in heaven, and he's just like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't even know what y'all talking about. Like, stop talking to me about who she's going to be married with. That doesn't even go on in heaven.
Right.
There's no marriage. You're going to be like the angels.
Exactly.
There's not even going to be any marriage. So what are you arguing about?
Talking about, yeah.
This makes no sense. So to me, that's the face that I heard. I just saw Jesus like, stop bothering me with this nonsense, right?
But they kept trying to trap him.
They kept trying to trap him.
That's why they were trying to always find something that they could do to, again, accuse him of being wrong based on their tradition, so that they could kill him.
Yes. But then by the time we get down to 41, he's asking them questions. Now, what do you think about the Messiah, right? And so
Whose son is he?
Whose son is he? And so they give their response. Remember, these are the people who have puffed themselves up around the common person, right? Because they are the ones who are supposed to have memorized and could recite almost all of what we know of the Old Testament, right?
Yeah,
the scripture. Yes, especially that. I mean, every male boy knew the Pentateuch, you know, by heart. But they were supposed to know the prophets and all that, even beyond. And so when we even get to what David's talking about, we're in the Psalms and we're talking about what David's talking about. He's asking them, and he's like, y'all don't even know whether you trying to tell me I'm not the Messiah,
right?
And y'all don't even know what the Messiah look like or what he's going to sound like or who he is, right? And so I do love that, like he just challenges them in his own word, right?
Yeah.
Because God's like, I'm the one who, Jesus is like, I'm the one who inspired these words to David, you know, to tell about my forthcoming, right? Like I am the word of God, right? And so I love that. And did you have any other thoughts?
I love the way he put it in verse 45. Since David called the Messiah my Lord, how can the Messiah be his son? And they couldn't answer him. And after that, no one dared to ask him any more questions.
That was done. It was a wrap.
It was a wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so good. So good. Well, like you said, there's so many different showdowns. Like we just don't need as much entertainment as we think. We just need to read the Bible because this is entertaining.
This is entertaining.
Like he is going tip to toe, back to back with them. I mean, calling them hypocrites and, you know, turning tables up. He's throwing tables out. And that's why I love shows like The Chosen. It just brings us to life sometimes. Or this is living. This is a living word. Don't need no more life. This is a living word. But just a different visual for me. But yeah, because it's fascinating.
It is. And I love it especially when you decide to do a deep dive and study the word. And so you read Matthew's version of it, and then you read Luke's version and Mark's and John, you know, just the different gospels, just to see the different. And one, like you said, always kind of fills in something that the other one may not have focused on because of the audience that they were writing to. And so I love, you know, I've read through this, and in fact at our church we used to, you know, read through the Bible every year. But I love the way we're doing this, and I really love the podcast that you and Eric have introduced as a way of reading, you know, several scriptures and then discussing it. Because I've always read through it and, like I said, done, you know, several deep dives comparing some of the different passages. And I love, like in my Bible, it will even tell me, you know, which part in Mark and which part in Luke, or, you know, where else you can find it in different the Old Testament scriptures that, you know. So I've done a lot of those kind of deep studies. And it just fascinates me, though. Every time I read it, you get something else.
Something new.
It's something new that didn't quite stick out, just like some of the things that you guys in your podcast. So for those that aren't watching the podcast, I would really encourage you to watch it, because you read it from one perspective, but then you guys share the word and, again, are able to expound on it from a biblical perspective. Not just your own thoughts on it. It's what the word is saying, and you're just bringing it out, and I love that.
And I even love just even the conversation we get to have even further on Sundays. So Sundays, if you're in Columbia, South Carolina area, we do gather on Sundays to discuss this further. If you're online, you want to join us online.
Wherever you are, because I'm from California and I come online. It's 3 hours earlier in the day, but a lot of times on my way to worship, I'm with y'all.
So just visit the website, Vibes Church, vibes.church. And join us so you can have more information, more discussion, and your own input. So, but thank you. We appreciate you for joining us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for the Vibes Daily Podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, or download our favorite, the Vibes Church app. Visit vibes.church/devoted for additional episodes, notes, details, and the latest merch. Join us next time as we continue our journey through the Bible. Take good care.